Stay connected with the world through WION. Like the page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter for new alerts. Instagram for videos and images. And the website for the latest news, views, and analysis. WIONews.com. World is one.
Hi everyone, welcome to WION Live Broadcast from New York City. I'm Susan Tehrani, and these are the top headlines for this hour. At least 3 people are killed and 8 injured in a shooting during a community gathering in downtown Fort Worth, Texas, here in the United States. A suspected car ramming and stabbing attack in Tel Aviv, Israel, injures 7 people before the suspect is neutralized. This on the second day of a major Israeli army operation in the occupied West Bank. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, addressing the summit of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, says India, China, Iran, Pakistan, Russia, and Central Asian countries should jointly fight terrorism. Elon Musk, who threw Twitter into chaos on the weekend with a slew of major changes, is now facing yet another challenge with Meta about to launch a rival app. Brazil forward Neymar fined $3.3 million for building a lake at his mansion on the outskirts of Rio without an environmental license. Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered a speech at this year's SCO summit, his first at a global summit since a short-lived mutiny last month when the head of the Wagner mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, led a failed rebellion against the Kremlin. During a virtual gathering, the Russian president projected an image of strength in front of world leaders. Putin told Asian leaders that the Russian people were more united than ever.
The Russian people are consolidated as never before. The solidarity and high responsibility for the fate of the fatherland was vividly demonstrated by Russian political circles and the entire society by coming out as a united front against the attempted armed rebellion. I would like to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues from countries of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization which expressed support for the actions of the Russian leadership to protect the constitutional order, life and security of residents.
For Putin, the summit presented an opportunity to show he's in control after a short-lived insurrection by Wagner mercenary chief. Putin addressed leaders from China, India, Pakistan, and 4 Central Asian countries. Many of the leaders in virtual attendance are considered as Russian-friendly nations. They either share borders, diplomatic aims, or strong economic ties with Moscow. Putin also used the platform to send a message of defiance to the West. He came down heavily on Western sanctions on Moscow. The Russian president backed trade accords between SCO nations and local currencies seen as an attempt to bypass sanctions. Chinese President Xi Jinping also attended the meeting. Xi mentioned the importance of safeguarding regional peace and security. He urged SCO members to follow the right direction and enhance their solidarity and mutual trust. Moreover, the Chinese president also warned against colored revolutions and a new Cold War. According to Xi, countries have to be highly vigilant against external forces who might create confrontation in the region. The same was also reiterated by him during the 2022 SCO summit in Uzbekistan's Samarkand. Moscow and Beijing have long criticized colored revolutions for being destabilizing influences that have been orchestrated by the United States and its Western allies to overthrow regimes in order to further their own geopolitical interests. Okay, well, for more on this, we are now being joined by Dr. Gilbert Doctorow from Brussels. He is an international affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on WION. My first question is regarding the SCO. Is it now tilting towards nations which have a partnership with Russia or are of interest in the Russia zone, so to say?
You have to look at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in a larger context because it is expanding with considerable speed. This summit was the first time that that Iran participated as a fully qualified member. There are about 14 countries that now are standing in line awaiting admission to the SCO. And they are not all in Eurasia. In fact, the organization is beginning to expand beyond Eurasia into North Africa. Egypt has indicated very recently that it intends to join, and that would already change the coloration or the nature of the SCO. Saying that the countries that are in line are there because of their relationship with Russia, I think is to misjudge the potential and the purposes of the SCO. After all, the co-founders are China and Russia, as well as the Central Asian republics, and China has a very heavy weight. As a whole, the SCO now accounts for 50% of the world's population, and it covers about 2/3 to 3/4 of the Eurasian continent. So it is an organization primarily to look after security and economic interests of its members, but it is an organization that has interests well beyond the narrow interests of the Kremlin.
And we see that many countries in the global south are either... Yes, please.
Yes, please.
And we see many countries in the global south who are reluctant to get involved in the Russia-Ukraine conflict or have their own opinions that may be a little different than the West, notably the United States. With organizations like this, where does the New World Order, the liberal world order, stand at this point?
Well, the reluctance of countries in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization to go against Russia and their particular interest, in the words of President Xi today, when he spoke against color revolutions and saying that preventing them should be a task of the SCO. You have to keep in mind that nearly all of the founding member countries of the SCO have been victims of attempted color revolutions which had the United States behind them. And so in that sense, they are sympathetic to Russia's travails and its attempt to take control of its own security, which was threatened by the United States and NATO by way of Ukraine. That concerns the SEO. Of course, other countries in the global south have their own particular history of particularly American intervention or meddling in their affairs, which again gives them a direct experience that to justify a policy of restraint with respect to what the Russians are now doing in Ukraine.
Dr. O, thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thanks for the invitation. My pleasure.
Well, some new updates are coming in from the conflict zone of Russia and Ukraine. Moscow claims to have shot down 4 Ukrainian drones on Tuesday, while a 5th jammed and crashed in an open area in the capital city. This comes on the sidelines of Kyiv's counteroffensive, which has so far failed to yield any major advances. Russia's defense ministry denounced the attack and blamed Ukraine for orchestrating it, although there was no immediate comment from Kyiv. Ukraine almost never publicly claims responsibility for the attacks inside Russia or on Russia-controlled territory in Ukraine. Drone attacks inside the Russian capital have increased over recent months. Drone attacks on the Kremlin in May and on a Russian oil infrastructure were repelled over the last couple of months. Flights in and out of Moscow's Vnukovo airport were restricted following the drone scare. Meanwhile, Russian drones attacked and killed 2 people and injured 19 others in the northern Ukrainian city of Sumy on Monday. According to the city's administration, 1 official building and 2 residential buildings were damaged in an attack carried out by 4 drones. Ukrainian military had earlier reported on Monday that it shot down 13 of the 17 Iranian-made Shahed drones launched by Moscow on several parts of the country. In the backdrop of this onslaught, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Ukraine's air defense are not yet sufficient enough to protect themselves against Russian attacks. Zelensky had previously urged its allied countries to help strengthen its air defense in the face of Russian attacks against military and civilian targets. Most recently, Lithuania bought 2 Nassam air defense launcher systems from Ukraine worth over $10 million. These launchers are said to be delivered to Kyiv in the next 3 months. Meanwhile, 2 people were killed due to shelling in Ukraine's southern city of Kherson on Tuesday morning. The number of wounded is still being revealed, but heavy damage to properties are being reported. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is in its 16th month, and Kyiv efforts to repel Russian forces with its counteroffensive has not met expectations. President Zelensky wants shells, planes, and patience. But the slow counteroffensive is clearly becoming unsustainable for Ukraine. The Israeli army's attack in the West Bank town of Jenin has killed at least 11 Palestinians and forced thousands to flee the country. As per a senior aide to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel is close to completing its operation. But is the operation a means to deflect attention from the widespread protests over the judicial reform bill back home? Here's a report.
Israeli forces say an offensive targeting militants in the city of Jenin could last days, one of the biggest West Bank operations carried out in 20 years. Residents of the adjoining refugee camp were seen fleeing violence on Monday. That included gun battles with militant fighters, as well as drone strikes that Palestinian authorities say killed a number of people. The densely populated camp has existed since 1948, in the aftermath of a war that accompanied the creation of Israel. Now, Israel claims it's a hotbed for the Jenin Brigade's militant group and has moved hundreds of soldiers in and carried out days of strikes. This woman says that Israeli soldiers stood near an ambulance as locals were told to leave their homes and their possessions before being brought to the hospital. Footage released by Israeli police claimed to show arrests made as part of the operation, blurring faces to protect identities. For more than a year, army raids in cities such as Jenin have become routine. There have also been a series of deadly attacks by Palestinians against Israelis and rampages by Jewish settler mobs against Palestinian villages. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday vowed to continue the operation for as long as necessary, calling Jenin a, quote, nest for terrorism.
In recent months, Jenin has become a safe haven for terrorists. From that safe haven, terrorists perpetrated savage attacks, murdering Israeli civilians.
Body cam footage from the Israeli army claimed to show a gun battle from the operation. Its apparent scale underlined the importance of the Jenin camp in violence that has further exposed the impotence of the Palestinian Authority, especially over towns in the West Bank, where it holds nominal governance powers. On Monday, the Palestinian Authority said it was cutting off contact with the Israelis.
There will be a suspension of all meetings and calls with the Israeli side, and we are suspending security coordination as well.
The Palestinian Authority has also called for help from the international community. The United Nations has said it's talking with all parties to de-escalate and ensure humanitarian access.
Another mass shooting has taken place in the United States. 4 people were killed and 2 others injured in the southwest region of Philadelphia. According to reports, a gunman wearing bulletproof vests went on a rampage in Philadelphia on Monday night. Details reveal that he was in possession of multiple magazines, an AR-type rifle, a handgun, and a police scanner. Police authorities have confirmed all victims being male.
No one really knows anything.
There are 2 people in custody. I'm sorry, I left that out. There are 2 people in custody, including our original shooter, the original calls that we responded to. And then at some point, as victims were being shot, we have another person that we believe acquired a gun somehow, don't know how, and picked up the gun and returned fire in the direction of the shooter that we have in custody. So we're still trying to sort everything out. So we have 3 guns recovered, 2 people in custody.
The attack in Philadelphia on the eve of Independence Day comes just a day after 2 people were killed and 28 others were injured after a shooting attack in Baltimore, Maryland. This year, U.S. has witnessed the highest number of mass killings and deaths on record to date. A total of 340 mass shootings have been reported so far, and at least 416 people have been killed so far in the United States. Let's tell you where those numbers stood in 2022. According to the Gun Violence Archive, a total of 647 mass shootings took place in 2022, which killed at least 44,000 people. The Gun Violence Archive recorded slightly more mass shootings in 2021 compared to 2022. A total of 692 mass shootings took place in 2021, killing more than 45,000 people. Okay, moving on, the U.S. China chip war is set to escalate. Now, China has decided to restrict exports of 2 metals that are crucial in producing not only semiconductors, but also telecom devices and electric vehicles. The 2 metals under the radar are gallium and germanium. They will come under China's export control from August 1st in a bid to protect national security. Exporters will need to apply for licenses to ship the 2 metals out of the country. Both metals are silvery white in appearance and are commonly classified as minor metals. The metals aren't typically found on their own in nature. Instead, they produced in small concentrations as a byproduct from refineries focused on other raw materials like zinc or alumina. Now all eyes will be on the impact of China's move on the tech world. Analysts believe that this is nothing but muscle flexing by China, but if it drags on for a year, the chances of price hikes are very high. It's worth remembering that China is overwhelmingly the top source of both metals. The country accounts for 94% of gallium supply and 83% of germanium. The export limits come at a time when countries are working to make their supply chain free from unnecessary dependence on overseas equipment. China is battling for technology dominance in everything from quantum computing to artificial intelligence and chip manufacturing. The U.S. has taken increasingly aggressive measures to keep China from gaining the upper hand. Meanwhile, the U.S. looks to restrict China's access to cloud computing to protect advanced technology. The Biden administration's proposal is aimed at closing loopholes in chip export controls, but this could escalate tit-for-tat fights with Beijing.
We're seeing at our southwest border. No one knows this better than
Well, Apple's ambitious vision seems to have hit a roadblock. According to the Financial Times, the company has been forced to make a major cut to production forecasts for its Vision Pro augmented reality headset. Take a look at our next report.
Apple has made major cuts to the production forecasts for its augmented reality Vision Pro headset. Design complexities and major difficulties in the production process are being given as the reason. That's according to the Financial Times, citing people with direct knowledge of the process.
Apple Vision Pro.
The Vision Pro, launched last month and expected to be available in the US early next year, has a starting price tag of almost $3,500. That's over 3 times the cost of Meta's priciest mixed and virtual reality headsets. The report said Apple's earlier target was to sell 1 million headsets in the first 12 months. But Chinese contract manufacturer Luxshare, Apple's only assembler of the device, was preparing to make fewer than 400,000 units of Vision Pro in 2024. The paper said a major hurdle is the manufacturing of the micro OLED displays, one for each eye, and that Apple is unhappy with the yield of micro OLEDs that are free of defects. Apple and Luxshare did not respond to a Reuters request for comment.
And moving on to the world of entertainment, after Indian megastars Amitabh Bachchan and Shah Rukh Khan, actor Ranveer Singh is set to take on the mantle of Dawn franchise. The actor, who is one of Bollywood's most loved stars and is married to global star Deepika Padukone, is reportedly set to play the role in Dawn 3. The action-packed film will be helmed by Farhan Akhtar. If reports are to be believed, the makers will share the big announcement on Singh's birthday. The Indian star turns 38 on July 6th. For many who love the Dawn franchise, it has always been the 1978 Dawn with Amitabh Bachchan in the lead that remains a favorite. The film co-star Zeenat Aman and Praneen pivotal roles and was helmed by Chandra Bharot. Meanwhile, in 2006, Shah Rukh Khan played the iconic role in Dawn. The Chase Begins Again, and then reprised his role in Dawn 2, The King is Back, in 2011. While both Big B and King Khan left fans impressed with their portrayal of Dawn, it remains to be seen if Ranveer Singh lives up to the expectations. Currently, the actor is in the news for his upcoming film, Rocky Aur Rani Ki Prem Kahani, directed by Karan Johar. The film stars Alia Bhatt alongside Ranveer Singh and is slated to be released on July 28th. And that's all the time we have for WION Live Broadcast in New York. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.
आने वाली खुशी के लिए एक ख्याल ही काफ़ी है। ईबिक्स कैश, हर खुशी के लिए काफ़ी है।